There's many awesome shows out there. Many of them I find quite enjoyable and have great writing, but not a lot of them stick with me, as in they don't influence me that much. I usually watch them, have a bit of a kick for a few months, and then put it on the sidelines. However, something is different with TUGS. I fall back into talking about it every few days, and I just can't explain why. I first discovered TUGS in around 2017, when my interest in Thomas peaked. Scrolling through YouTube, I found an upload of Munitions. Never really thought anything of it, didn't even click on the video. I just assumed it was one of those Thomas knockoff shows. Oh boy, how I was so wrong. In 2021, it popped up again. The unlucky Tug, notable at the time in the fandom, as well as a known creator with his reviews, remakes, and occasionally music videos. He had announced not too long ago on his Twitter account that he'd been working on a video analysis about the show. This is when I started to check out the series, and I enjoyed it. I urged my close friends to watch it too, and they also liked it. After the premiere, I thought to myself, what more can I learn about this incredible show? I started looking into forums and pages of the TUGS Wikipedia, and man, I was hooked. The sheer amount of production and to a certain extent the chaos of making it fascinated me. It was an interesting feeling to say the least. I felt that I should find out all I could. And a while after that, I discovered that other people also had the same need for tracking all that can be found about this show. And I found there was a whole fanbase about TUGS. It was incredible. I joined Discord servers, made friends, got to learn knowledge that I seemingly never had known before. It was definitely a bit overwhelming, because I never expected there to be this much information about such a small show. But it really shows that TUGS is in fact unique. But enough about how I got to know it. I want to talk about how wonderful the stories and characters in TUGS are. There are many tropes that can be explored and expressed through the medium of writing, and with that needs a world and characters. Many shows that are aimed at a child audience have a light-hearted and whimsical impression upon first viewings, and there's nothing wrong with that, but what if said universe was grounded in reality, focused on deeper and mature topics that broaden the scope of the imagination and thought process? How would you write something like that? It's a tricky thing, but I'm certain that TUGS manages to somewhat pull it off. The world building, even in the first episode, is established as a working and busy environment. The dynamic bond between life and harbor is strongly held together and is borderline inseparable. These are not any generic, happy-faced boats that jump around on the water or sing happy-go-lucky songs. These are mature, working power horses who take on fulfilling duties assigned to them. They don't and will not play around in serious situations, and the growth and lives of the port are carried by the operations and management of these tugs. Just by the opening scene you get the full blast, and the characters show off how unfiltered and borderline insulting they are towards each other. It feels so real, but it's done in a way that doesn't distract or take focus from the viewer. It instead builds upon things that we know and elevates it all. But there's a clear difference displayed between the Star Tugs and the Z Stacks. TUGS really wants you to know this. Just the contrast between the jovial and cheeky mood of the Stars versus the brooding, scheming and devious antics of the Zs. You get to know why they are rivals, because they have vastly different work ethics and morals. Writing for them wouldn't be as easy as you think. You need to dive into who's really good, who's really bad, and who are in the middle grounds of it all. Of course, the fact that TUGS has only one season limits it to having some neglected characters, but otherwise we know a lot about each of them. The struggles a lot of them face really put you on the edge of your seat. Some may be catastrophically bad, or maybe just some minor mishap. You'll never know what to expect really.
5, 4,
Answer me, you fool!
2, 1,
What's happening?
Geronimo! What a sight! What a bang! Brilliant!
An episode could be about harbor life as per normal, as it mostly does. However, it's when these unusual things happen is where the action stems from. Most action-packed episodes are a long roller coaster of intense build-ups and payoffs, and they're perfectly written. It all came down to the creators not putting restrictions or strict rules on what you could really do with this show. David Mitton and Robert D. Cardona really let loose with anything and let it go wild. I do love how the personalities and issues the characters face often bring out their true sides, and we TUGS fans love to dissect these smaller yet important moments. It's basically become mostly what TUGS is known for. The production is super fascinating. It's honestly like a rabbit hole. The more you try to figure out and try to answer, the more questions seem to pop up. That's the cycle I find myself and many other fans in, but together we work it out. I believe TUGS is an awesome show with great stakes, entertaining plots, and stories featuring characters who have more to them than meets the eye. It just all connects very well. And now I have Sonic Wally as a featured guest for today. What do you have to say about TUGS' awe-inspiring writing?
I feel like what makes TUGS' writing so interesting to me is how they interact. I especially like it when all the characters are talking very casually or making very snappy remarks at one another, which is unlike any other kids show out there, at least to me. For example, the very first interaction scene in TUGS is the one in Sunshine. It really does set the mood for the entire series and makes it stand out when compared to the other kid shows, again, at least to me. The way Tenzin just openly insults Top Hat and then Top Hat bites back in the scene, with Tenzin's then laughing, is perfectly snappy. Snappy is what I would describe the writing style in TUGS, and I really love it. The way the characters feel real and often bounce off of each other is why I continue to be a huge fan of these characters and to draw fan art of them. Easily my favourite scene in TUGS that isn't a long panning shot from the Sizzler would be the scene where Big Mac returns from the coal depot in high tide, where he's then legendarily insulted by Top Hat. It's an endlessly quotable scene and it's just pure gold, especially with Top Hat's ever so classic line from this scene, the one where he calls Big Mac a floating sack of coal, no less. Overall, in my opinion, TUGS' writing is easily one of the best I've seen in a children's show.
Well said. Thank you, man. Check out his TUGS videos. They're awesome and quite well made. From a writing standpoint, it has exciting and thrilling episodes that manage to grasp your attention, while simultaneously adding elements of real-life events that range from quite famous to relatively unknown, yet enticing. Fans of the show like to create their own stories inspired by the style and writing of TUGS, and let's talk about the TUGS community itself. There is no doubt in my mind that this fandom has an infinite amount of talent and creativity for content. Anything and everything is possible. Artwork, models, music, theories, stories, and even the preservation of TUGS media. Our fandom is definitely full of energy and dedication to this franchise. Whether it's a video compilation of deleted scenes from TUGS, or a whole in-depth analysis video on a specific character or about the whole show in its entirety, there's quite the selection of videos to choose from, and they're always such an entertaining insight into how the show's creative process was really like. I have to take a moment to talk about the TUGS project. If you, for some reason, don't know already, the TUGS project is a preservation team of people whose goal is to collect, present, and preserve these behind-the-scenes media from TUGS. They began posting publicly on Twitter in 2021 after the Unlucky Tug announced the account on his TUGS analysis video. The team hit it out of the park with their first few posts, and has had a constant stream of amazing work displayed and genuinely has the most impressive results of restoration work I've ever seen. You all should go check out and follow them on Twitter. Also check out all the content on their Google Drive. It's very packed with Polaroids, negatives, and prints of photos from crew members. What's also interesting about these photos is how informative they are. It's one thing to have interviews describing what production of TUGS was like, but to actually see how it was all created gives such a deep and intrusive insight into TUGS itself. There's also some goofy stuff in there. It seems the crew love to mess around on set, and oh boy, they are really something. Photographic media isn't the only thing the TUGS project has been cooking up, however. In late 2022, they premiered their restoration of the TUGS Castle Vision launch tape from mid-1988. This was a big revelation for the TUGS community, as we finally got a glimpse of what the TUGS sizzle reel would have looked like in full 4K VHS quality. As of 3 months ago, on 22nd December 2023, the TUGS project revealed in a teaser on Twitter that they had in possession a U-matic tape of the full TUGS Sizzler. And with that, on December 24th, they premiered the whole 7-minute tape in stunning 4K quality. There was a twist, however. It turned out that this was a copy of a US dub of the Sizzler, of which frankly nobody expected, but it was a welcome surprise. I mainly brought up the TUGS project because their team is made up of well-known people in the TUGS fandom. Now let's get to original TUGS stories, which I have a lot to say about. Writing TUGS stories, especially original ones, can become a challenge. Building upon pre-established lore can be tricky, but with the right amount of knowledge and persistence, you can tell a great story with stakes and plenty of action. I myself have written about 6 TUGS stories, from the contriving and bold to the sweet and lighthearted. My inspiration for writing TUGS stories mainly is derived from Rescue, an original TUGS story written by Ian Tu, inspired by events that occurred with the SS Suvik, or Suvik, I'm not too sure. This story is really special to me, as it was the first and by far most epically written TUGS story to utilize an audio-visual format. It has to do with the writing, directing, and editing. It's all done so fabulously and neatly. The voice actors deserve credit too. By far it is a loaded cast with talented voice artists who do a splendid job. The sheer weight that the lead characters in this story, Big Mac, Zoran, and Warrior hold is very dense. Zoran especially has phenomenal writing in this. He's a real foil to Big Mac. He isn't his regular scheming self though. He seems to have a lot more going on, and tries his best to remind Big Mac of the stakes at hand. He tries to bring Big Mac down to earth, yet Big Mac sticks with his notion that Zoran's only out for trouble, and it makes for a very entertaining tale. Creating a single original TUGS story is one thing, but making a whole season out of it is a whole different beast. I have experience with this. I know it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn here. I've written about 5 TUGS stories for this specific TUGS fan series. Tencent's Harbor Adventures is a fan-made series on YouTube of TUGS-inspired adventures, usually having Tencent as the sole main role. Episodes I've written are Reunited, Tiring Crane, and Chase. There are 2 more stories in the works, but I won't say any more as to not spoil anything. Writing the episodes themselves, I found a bit daunting, especially finding the rhythm I wanted. But when an idea came to mind, it was going in the script. The characterization must be written correctly. You need a lot of reference when writing dialogue, so you can be sure that it is in the perfect TUGS tone and feel. I have Zuggy here as the second guest for today. He's gonna talk about how making a fan series was like for him, and some obstacles that he faced.
I have a lot of fun making Tencent's Harbor Adventures, whether it's filming or making models, or even script writing. It's a fun time. I actually attempted a TUGS fan series before this called TUGS Again. However, that only lasted 3 episodes, unfortunately, and I was just gonna call it quits then, but my love for TUGS told me to push on, and I did. It was at that point when I needed a new head writer. I knew that A1 had a TUGS Again script in the works, and that's when I came to him and asked if he wanted to be the new head writer, and he agreed. But overall, I have so much fun working with him and everyone else on the series, and I have so much stuff planned for the future.
Indeed, we do have more stuff planned. Thanks for joining in on this, Zuggy. Everyone make sure to check out Tencent's Harbor Adventures, link in the description. TUGS is a beautiful show. It has endless possibilities with stories, characters, and much more. It is the gift that keeps on giving. More than 35 years later, and we get discovery after discovery, revelation after revelation about this franchise. Brand new stuff is constantly happening to it, and while the episodes and production may be over, the story of TUGS and his upbringing will continue to fascinate and captivate new fans all over the world. The passion, heart, and soul David Mitten and Robert D. Cardona, and to an extent the rest of the crew, put into these 13 episodes will be forever commemorated and appreciated. And to us fans, we will strive to keep the memory and flair of TUGS alive for years, and hopefully, decades to come. Happy 35th anniversary, TUGS, you masterpiece of a show.